Hi everybody, if you clicked on this video, you like me and you want to see me draw stuff. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to warn you, because I don't have any, I don't really listen to music while I animate. Instead, I listen to podcasts. So for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to listen to, I guess, something about Sawbones, a marital tour of, you know, stuff. And since it's nearly Halloween, let's listen to Arsenic.
Sawbones is a show about medical history, and nothing the hosts say should be taken as medical advice or opinion. It's for fun. Can't you just have fun for an hour and not try to diagnose your mystery boil? We think you've earned it. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy a moment of distraction from that weird growth. You're worth it.
All right, song is about some books. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Making a background here.
We came across a pharmacy with its windows blasted out. Pushed on through the broken glass and had ourselves a look around. The medicines that escalate macabre for the mouth.
Hello everybody and welcome to Sawbones, a marital tour of misguided medicine. I'm your co-host Justin McElroy.
And I'm Sydney McElroy.
Hey,
Hey, Justin.
Hey Sidster.
Justin, I'm going to name things, and you tell me what they have in common.
Like a quiz. Like
Yeah.
a fun quiz.
It's like, yes, it's a very fun quiz. It's a very
Okay.
fun, exciting, funny. I would say humorous.
Okay.
Like, jovial, laugh-inducing
Something for everyone.
quiz.
Okay.
Okay. Brussels sprouts,
Okay.
dark meat fish,
Ew, that's gross. Okay.
rice,
Rice.
specifically jasmine rice,
Okay.
beer, and apples.
They are all part of a balanced diet, and I think that
Beer, sure, yeah.
I've been told at different times they're all good for me. They all sound very healthful and health-inducing, and that's it. They sound like healthy foods.
Eh.
Eh?
I mean, that wasn't what I meant.
Well, what's the unifying factor?
They can all contain arsenic. Yay.
They what?
They can all contain arsenic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, like, I mean, anything can contain arsenic, right?
Well, I mean, in the sense that if you put arsenic in it,
Yeah, right.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we contain arsenic in that light.
But those things you mentioned have arsenic in them?
So arsenic can be in water and in soil, and so it can get into any of our food products. But these are some things that have been listed as the most likely to contain
So Brussels sprouts?
higher amounts of arsenic.
Brussels sprouts?
Brussels sprouts, dark meat fish, rice, like I said, apples, various fruits. Apples, though,
I knew with Brussels sprouts.
Beer and wine.
That one I can't account for that one, but Brussels sprouts I knew there was something up there.
They smell weird.
Smell weird like arsenic. I always thought it was like
No.
an arsenic kind of smell. I knew it.
No,
Wait.
that might be why Charlie wouldn't eat them.
She said her baby senses, they're more heightened than we are because she's outpaced us evolutionarily. That makes perfect sense to me. What's up with arsenic, though?
Well,
It's
Justin.
like a really bad poison, right?
Yeah. Well, It is, but we've used it as medicine for a long time, so I thought I would tell you about it.
I would love to hear more about it. Are you going to talk about the play, Arsenic and Old Lace? That's the only thing I really know about arsenic.
Nope, not a word.
Well, we just covered it.
That was the only time you'll hear arsenic and old lace mentioned in this podcast.
Maybe you can do one of your classic Justin Searches the Internet segments later in the show.
And you can tell me about arsenic and old lace?
Yeah, sounds good.
That's good. Let's just tag for this episode. The only tag that you can search that is searchable, arsenic and old lace.
Okay, perfect.
This will be your Arsenic and Old Lace fan cast.
That's how metadata works, folks.
Brought to you by, I don't know how it works, brought to you by Justin and Sydney.
So, arsenic.
Thank you to Damien and Erica for both
poisoning us with arsenic.
Well,
your plot's been revealed.
You poisoned my email with a great idea.
That's not what poisoning means, but go, sure. It normally has a negative connotation, but please.
Not in this case, unless you hate this episode, in which case,
sorry.
Blame them. Sorry. Not my fault.
Yep.
Arsenic is an element, like is in the periodic table. You know, the one with all the boxes.
Right, yeah.
The one that's on that cool pair of Toms I have.
Yeah.
The coolest pair of Toms anybody ever had. It's number 33, in case anybody is studying for a chemistry quiz.
While you listen to this podcast.
Piece of information.
What an amazing bit of serendipity that would be for you.
Or taking a quiz and listening to this, in which case your professor needs to pay better attention.
Yeah, this is... By the way, number 13 is B. You messed it up.
It's not. Justin never knows the answer to a chemistry quiz.
That's fair.
So it can be found just in its pure, like, elemental form. But typically arsenic is some sort of organic or inorganic compound. So there are lots of different forms. There are lots of different colors that you can find a substance that is an arsenic-based substance in, because it compounds with a lot of other different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's rare that you just have plain arsenic. It has some uses in industry, in treating wood, for instance. And in the past, we've used it more as like a pesticide and things like that. But some of these uses have faded over time because, you know...
Arsenic.
Poison.
Yeah, right.
It's actually, as I kind of alluded to, we have arsenic in our bodies. A trace amount of arsenic is necessary in the human body. There are lots of things that we need in just little teeny amounts. And we need just a little dab of arsenic.
A little piquant. A little piquant of poison.
Just a hint of arsenic. As well as a lot of other animals, too. Need a little bit of arsenic to function.
They should update sugar and spice and everything nice, and also just the faintest hint of arsenic.
Well, it is the leading...
Who's made of that?
Girls. And the boys are made of slugs and snails, puppy dog tails, and also, lest we forget, a little bit of arsenic also.
Arsenic is the leading...
That's, it's important to remember in these times with so many people who are trying to divide us, that the one thing that connects us, the one thing that unifies us all, that we all have in common and can share.
A little bit of arsenic.
A little bit of arsenic.
Yep.
It's also the 53rd most commonly occurring element.
Man, I'm all right. This is fast. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Like I mentioned,
don't know why I dragged my whole chair in here. I only needed the edge.
It can be found in water and dirt. It's in the Earth's crust, and it can accidentally seep into our food, which is when it becomes poison.
Poisonous.
The most common form of poison that you would think of is arsenic trioxide, and when it is that forms when you heat. When heated air comes in contact with arsenic, elemental arsenic. And when that happens, by the way, it gives off like a garlic odor, in case you were wondering that fact.
Okay.
So, like, if you have some arsenic and then you heat the air around it and then it smells like garlic, run!
So if you ever smell garlic, you should feel if you get food and it smells like garlic, you should feel fairly certain that it's been poisoned by arsenic.
Either it's got garlic in it or arsenic.
It's one of the two.
One of the two. Unless they put both, then... That's a clever murderer.
Yeah.
That's from an Agatha Christie novel, I bet. No, it's not. Justin's shaking his head.
Nope.
It's not. I've never read any, but I bet. The word arsenic comes from the Syriac word al-zarnica, from the Persian zarnik for yellow. And that's probably because one of the most common arsenic compounds you can find, orpiment, is yellow.
Okay. Makes sense.
In Greek, it became, after it derived from that, it became arsenikon, which of course eventually is arsenic.
The worst transformer.
Arsenikon, which is actually related
to the Allspark, arsenikon.
It was actually related to the Greek word for male or virile, because what's more male and virile than
convert this
poison that kills you? It's known as the king of poisons and the poison of kings.
Both?
Yeah. I think it's a clever play on words.
Yeah.
It's the best poison, and also it's been used to murder many kings.
It's a classy poison.
It's a very classy poison. Do you know why it's such a good poison?
Why, Sid?
So, it is in the trioxide form. It is a white powder that dissolves instantly in water, and it is odorless, and it is tasteless, and it cannot be detected in any way.
So it's a lot like iocane powder.
It's exactly right. It's like iocane powder.
I knew that's what you're building.
I know, it's iocane powder is what it is.
Yeah.
Except it's not. It's real. It's arsenic. You can, though, build up a little bit of a tolerance to it over time.
Right, from the Dread Pilot Roberts.
A little bit.
Teaches you how to have a...
Yeah, don't try to do that, though. I mean, you can't do it like
you didn't hear that
the
from
Dread
us.
Pirate Roberts.
You know what? You
did.
probably
No.
can't. We take it back. Don't try that.
I may have been confusing that with something else. Never mind. I disregard that
Don't
fact.
risk that on us.
So it's really good for killing off like heirs to the throne ahead of you in line. That's not a problem for Justin and I, being the oldest children in our families.
Yeah, no one's coming after us.
Yeah, we don't need to use it. Well, maybe they're coming after us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we don't have to murder anybody, but I gotta watch my sisters.
Stay on our toes.
Yeah. And of course, kings that everybody hates, or just that you want to off. And also, well-known use for killing wealthy husbands that maybe you never really liked in the first place, and you didn't want to be stuck with till death do you part. Well, at least until death did you part.
Yeah, you parted. You chose the time.
You wanted death to do them part first. However, that all aside, it has medicinal uses throughout history as well. Hippocrates was one of the first. He advised arsenic sulfides and orpiment, which we've already kind of talked about, for ulcers and abscesses and various skin conditions. He thought that creams and salves made of this, pastes, would be good for these kinds of skin problems. Dioscorides recommended it for a depilatory, meaning for hair removal.
Oh, perfect.
Which seems like a crazy length to go to for hair removal.
Yeah, you're kind of shooting the cannon indoors with that one. It seems like a bit of an overreach.
Like, just pluck.
Just pluck it out, shave it, whatever.
Shave it, get some nair.
Get some nair, Discordites.
It was one facet of traditional Chinese medicine, but used like a lot of poisons would have been based on the concept. One core tenet is that you use a poison to treat a poison.
Sure.
So why not arsenic, the king of poisons? In Ayurvedic medicine, an arsenic-containing elixir was thought to give immortality. Mm-hmm. I would argue the contrary.
Yeah.
Paracelsus, who we've talked about before, the father of toxicology from the 1500s, middle name Bombastus.
So good.
One of the best middle names ever. Was a big fan of arsenic, too. He
Arsenic,
recommended
too,
it.
that, of course, is the sequel to Arsenic. It's way better, way fizzier. Got the great caramel color, you remember.
Arsenic 2, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, he used it for syphilis, as well as he made a balm out of it to use for all kinds of various skin conditions, wounds and ulcers again, as well as anthrax. Popular for anthrax and carbuncles.
What are carbuncles?
A carbuncle, okay, so furuncles and carbuncles. You've heard of an abscess or a boil?
Yeah.
You know what a boil is?
Yeah.
Most people, when they see like a big, almost like a big giant zit with a big white head on it on your skin somewhere, they'll call it a boil. Mm-hmm. The other word for that could be an abscess. If it has one head on it, just one little white, that you just got to scrape or pop or whatever head, it's a furuncle. If it's got multiple heads on it, it's a carbuncle.
Oh, this turned out way grosser than I thought it would, Sid. What do you got next?
In 1786, Thomas Fowler, who was a British physician, made what was initially called liquor mineralis, later to be known by 1809 as Fowler's solution. Now, this was a medicine that was made of with 1% potassium arsenite, so arsenic-based stuff. And he initially recommended it for things like fevers and headaches. It became really widely used in London, was very popular for the treatment of malaria, and later became popular for the treatment of what was just being understood as sleeping sickness.
Didn't we have quinine by this point?
It was an alternative for that.
Why did we need an alternative? Did quinine not work?
No, it does.
Does this work? You think?
You know what? No. Well, I mean, it could kill you too, like if you take too much arsenic. So it was. I would say it was an inferior treatment. But I don't know.
If you take too much anything, it's gonna kill you, Sydney.
Yes.
That's what too much means.
Well, I mean, there's some truth to, as I'm going to get into, there are some things that can be treated somewhat with arsenic. So can you treat malaria with arsenic? Actually, yes, I believe you can to some extent.
There you have it,
but we
folks.
have much better treatments for malaria now. So I am not saying to go get arsenic
Fresh
for your
out
malaria.
the podcast, #1 treatment for malaria. It's new, it's hot, it's off the shelves. All your friends
don't
are
use
still
arsenic
on
for
quinine.
malaria.
That's old news.
Well, we don't typically go straight for quinine either these days. I mean, you can, but there are a lot of other better treatments for malaria.
A lot of side effects.
But would it have killed any of the Plasmodium? Maybe.
Perfect.
Maybe. I don't want to say no. By the time we get to like the 1880s, because of Fowler's solution, we're seeing arsenic used for all kinds of other illnesses, based on the, success, perhaps, of Fowler's solution. So you see people prescribing it for heartburn, or because you have rheumatoid arthritis, for tuberculosis, again, for any kind of skin condition, cancers of the skin. There were all kinds of arsenic-based like pastes and creams that you might put on them. For cancers of the breast, it was a common treatment. Other skin conditions like psoriasis, even things like hypertension, were being treated with arsenic. And there were other things made of arsenic that were very popular. There was Donovan's solution, which was arsenic and mercury. It's not enough if you got arsenic in there. There was a de Valgen's solution, same idea. What was really interesting about Fowler's solution is that in 1878, they figured out that in people with a certain kind of leukemia, if they were given Fowler's solution, which contained arsenic, it would bring their white blood cell count down, which the white blood cell count is very high in this particular kind of leukemia. So this bringing it down like that indicated that it was treating the leukemia in some way.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And so this was used as a treatment for leukemia for a really long time as a result of this, prior to the advent of things like chemotherapy. And for a long time into the 20th century, Fowler's solution could be found as a commonly, like in a pharmacopoeia or in a materia medica, you would find Fowler's solution up to like 1914. It was listed as a treatment for things that I've already mentioned, like syphilis and malaria and
so it probably was
skin
effective
problems.
in some way, right?
Yes.
That's far enough along in history that we weren't just like guessing at things in the materia medica and stuff.
Exactly. We were starting to actually try and test things by now.
The vaguest hints of science.
Yes.
Was Fowler's solution for anything else?
Well, Justin, I want to tell you a little bit more about arsenic, but first, why don't you come with me to the billing department?
Let's go.
The medicines that escalate macabre for the mouth.
Folks, whether or not you spend your day in a suit or sweats, you are going to spend a lot of it wearing underwear. You want your underwear, though, to make a statement. Don't just wear stuff that's just going to cover your crotch. That's no great feat. Any loincloth could do that. Why don't you have something that will cradle you in supreme comfort? And I'm talking about MeUndies here, of course. Your underwear is probably boring, and MeUndies is going to change that. They make their undies out of modal, which is a bajillion times softer than cotton. I mean, it's twice, but it feels like a bajillion times. They have so many cute styles and matching ones for men and women, which is very cool, and non-binary. You could do both. Go for it. We have a ton of great patterns. They've sent us so many cool looks that match. We don't necessarily always plan to match, but we often end up.
I bet we're matching today. We just got a brand new pair. I bet you're wearing them, aren't you?
I bet I am right now.
Me too.
That's right.
Me too.
And when they're new, our daughter can wear them as a scarf, which she very much enjoys.
She actually makes a whole little outfit out of both of our underwear.
Yeah, she makes a dress out of my boxers. They're clean. Like, calm down.
Like they're straight out of the package.
Yeah.
Come on. Don't give us a hard time.
Every pair of MeUndies is made from sustainably sourced modal, sorry. And you really, if you haven't tried these yet, you need to. And once you do, you're going to understand why the Earth and also us call them the world's most comfortable underwear. There's a ton of styles to choose from. Shipping is free in the U.S. and Canada, and you can save up to $8 a pair with MeUndies subscription plan. So get the subscription or get a single pair. You get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/sawbones. That's MeUndies.com/sawbones for 20% off your first order. Sid, who else do we got on the sponsor sheet?
Our other sponsor this week is Blue Apron. Now, Justin and I have told you before, we are big fans of Blue Apron because what do? They will send you to your house some delicious, perfectly proportioned ingredients to make yourself home-cooked, unique, wonderful meals that you probably never would have thought of to make for yourself or would know where to get maybe in your local grocery store.
Last night that we had these meatballs with they weren't called meatballs. They had
albondigas
in it, and they were in a tomato sauce. But they're served with fried squash. But the piece de resistance was this bread that we rubbed with garlic and then with tomato, which I did not know if that would be good or not. But it was like out of control delicious.
They're wonderful meals. They're fresh, high quality ingredients. And this is less than $10 a meal.
Yeah.
So really affordable, really delicious. They come from artisanal suppliers, family-run farms, fisheries, and ranchers. There's all kinds of cool, delicious meals that they'll send you with recipe cards. They're easy to follow instructions. They're fun to do with kids. If you got kids who are old enough to handle a knife. Mm-hmm. If they're not, don't give them one. But if they are, do. And again, really easy to follow instructions, and you don't have anything left over to throw away that you didn't use, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. No waste. Not that big bundle of parsley that you don't know what to do with. So I would highly recommend you check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/sawbones. That's blueapron.com/sawbones.
Hello! This month's Beef and Dairy Network podcast is an Olympics special, recorded here on Ipanema Beach in Rio de Janeiro. We'll be tackling all the big issues. Should athletes be allowed to eat lamb? Should Olympic equestrian riders be able to ride on a cow? All these questions and more answered in this month's Beef and Dairy Network Olympics special. Find us at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts from.
So, Sid, what else was arsenic being used for this time period?
So, as I mentioned, arsenic was used for all kinds of different, again, a lot of skin issues, but stomach upset, anything else. And because it was used in so many different illnesses, especially a lot of systemic kind of illnesses, there were lots of different ways that you could prescribe it. Because it's not enough to rub arsenic on your skin. It's not enough to drink some. Let's make it into some tablets where you could eat it, or a powder.
Milkshake.
Why don't... Sure. I mean, why not a milkshake?
Why not a milkshake?
You could inhale it as a vapor. You could inject it.
That seems, for a substance that too much of it could kill you, I'm not sure I would want to go with inhaling. I'm not sure I'd trust that method.
A little harder to control, I think.
Yeah, right.
You could inject it in your muscle. You could inject it in your vein, IV, arsenic. Or you could give it as an enema.
Great.
If you're feeling really
I'll do the
spicy.
Others. I'll do the others.
You'll do the others?
Yeah, the others are fine. Thank you. I've got plenty of arsenic at the moment. I'd rather not get an enema of it. Thank you very much for the offer, doctor.
Well, let me know if you change your mind.
Yeah, no, I don't think I will.
I have plenty.
No, I understand.
I bought a bunch of rice just for that.
That's great.
I've spent the whole day
I don't understand
isolating arsenic from rice.
Perfect. Yeah, I was so good on that, on arsenic. I'm good. Thank you so much. I won't be back. Bye.
In the Victorian era, and we've mentioned this actually before, I think in one of our on beauty episodes, beauty products and things, women were fond of rubbing arsenic on their skin. The reason is that it would give you that really unhealthy tuberculosis glow that everyone
so crazy about back then.
Everybody, and we've mentioned this before, this was a time when it was really popular to look like you had tuberculosis, because then you looked kind of frail and pale and like a fine lady who stayed out of the sun all the time.
A strong breeze would just snap you clean in half. That was fashion.
Sat inside, covered in clothing, coughing delicately into a hanky.
Just a tasteful amount of blood.
Just a teeny little a highlight of red blood against the white background. That's just that pop of color that every woman loves. There was also a compound made out of arsenic and vinegar and chalk.
Ugh.
Yeah, that you could eat, which
Easter
also would make you look kind of pale and sickly.
Perfect.
Again, really popular look. It also, arsenic could sometimes give your cheeks kind of a red, flushed look, so that, you know, you'd have that paleness, but then just the faintest hint of color in your cheeks because of burst capillaries.
Great. Sort of like gin blossoms, but in your cheeks instead of your nose, right?
Yeah, there you go. I'm waiting for the day where this comes back, and I mean, surely, like, everything comes around, right?
We are not that far off.
Like,
We're not that far off.
Right now, everybody's just reliving the 90s and their fashion choices, sooner or later. One physician fairly famous for the use of arsenic was Paul Ehrlich. Now, usually when I start to talk about a physician, a historical physician on the show, I'm going to tell you really terrible things about them. Dr.
Kind of a
Ehrlich,
red flag if you popped up. Like, if you're at the doctor's meeting, you don't necessarily want to hear, "Hey, I heard about you on Solvents this week."
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Dr. Ehrlich, actually, don't worry that much about him.
Oh, good.
You don't have to. This is kind of a nice one. He was a German physician. He lived in the second half of the 1800s. He invented a lot of things. He did a lot of work in the field of immunology. He actually would go on to win a Nobel Prize. He invented Salvarsan. Salvarsan was a very popular medication, and he did this, by the way, with the help of Dr. Sahachiro Hata. And the two of them created this compound to target syphilis, which was the Great Pox.
Big
it was
problem,
a huge scourge of the time, of a lot of human history, really. And he found that this compound specifically targeted the spirochetes, the teeny little bacteria that cause syphilis. Spirochetes. I know you like that word so much.
That. That's so good.
They're little corkscrew-looking things.
Birds.
What?
The little corkscrew birds. We talked about how they sound like.
Oh, that's right.
Corkscrew
birds. I almost forgot. I was going to say, honey, they're not birds. They're bacteria.
I know, I get it. It's just, that's what I always think of as spirochetes.
I love those drawings that everyone sent us of the spirochetes. So Salvarsan was an arsenic-based substance, arsphenamine, and it was also called Compound 606. Which all I could think of was Formula 409 when I heard that.
Yeah.
Except for, this was the arsenic one that you put on your syphilis.
But other than that, it's indistinguishable from Formula 409, popular over-the-counter cleaning solution.
It's basically the same. Do you think that this is
it's Formula 409. You don't put it on your syphilis anymore. It's for your countertops.
Do you think this is in the same line? Like the same... You know what I mean? Like Formula 409, do you think eventually became Compound 606? Like this was another iteration?
Honey, the countertops look terrible. I'm sorry, dear. I got the syphilis medicine again. I don't know why they make the bottles look so close to each other. The coloring and everything is indistinguishable. But God help you if you go the other way. That's probably worse.
That was actually the first really effective treatment for syphilis. Up till then, mercury had been really popular, and this overtook mercury as what you would want to use on your syphilis. And in 1910, it was the most widely sold drug in the world.
Wow. Which
says something about its effectiveness as well as something about the prevalence of syphilis.
Yeah, a lot of people were willing to do whatever it took.
A lot of syphilis going on then. And it remained the mainstay of the treatment of syphilis until we get to the antibiotic era in the 1940s when penicillin was discovered.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. When things got just a little better for everybody.
Thanks again, penicillin.
Thank you, penicillin, for fixing syphilis.
You made our podcast less interesting, but we do appreciate you carrying all the syphilis.
That's true. The antibiotic era really killed sawbones.
Yeah. The story is usually like the average arc of a sawbones episode is almost always bullcrap, 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 antibiotics, and here's what we do today. Like that's usually the arc.
What's scary though, Justin, is that as more and more bacteria become resistant to our antibiotics.
Don't do this to me. I'm not gonna play this game with you right now. Please, I'm living with generalized anxiety disorder. Please don't tell me about superbugs. I can't swing it right now.
I'm just saying, just don't get too comfortable.
Yeah, I'm like so good. I'm
just
not being
saying,
comfortable.
if your doctor says you have a virus and you don't need an antibiotic, trust them. That's all I'm saying, okay? That's all I'm saying.
There's a public health message from us to you.
That's
please,
all I'm saying.
Just for me. Just this once. Just don't get the antibiotics if you don't need them.
He also studied various arsenic-based compounds for African sleeping sickness, and I kind of alluded to that we had figured out that maybe Fowler's solution kind of worked for that. So he looked into that a little bit more. This is also called trypanosomiasis, or sleeping sickness, as a lot of people call it.
A better thing to call it.
I don't know. I kind of like trypanosomiasis, and it did actually kill these little creatures as well. It was actually somewhat effective, but the side effects of it could be fairly severe. There was a medicine that actually was derived from this in 1949, melarsoprol, which is used for the treatment of the second stage of sleeping sickness. The first stage we have some really much safer, effective treatments for, but the second stage of sleeping sickness, we still don't have really great medicines for. There's some that work, but they're also very high risk. This one in particular is an arsenic compound that we use to treat this, because this disease is so serious, can be fatal. It is worth the risk of this medication, which has this possible side effect called reactive encephalopathy.
How common is that?
3 to 10% of people who take this drug.
That ain't nothing. I mean, that's
a very significant side effect, and it can be fatal. But the thing is, the disease itself is so dangerous that in some cases you just have to give this medication. I actually remember hearing about this on a television program when I was a kid. I remember watching like a special show about this, how we need to help. It was probably some sort of like call to action. There was probably like some donation that had I had money as a child, had I had money, access to funds, but I was a kid, I would have wanted to donate to. But I remember watching this television program about how we have sleeping sickness, which is so dangerous, and the treatment for it is this awful arsenic-based medicine, and surely we can do better, and money is needed for research.
And you as a kid were watching this.
Yeah.
Man, you must have been a cool kid. I wish we'd been closer back then.
I remember this. I told everybody who would listen, every adult who would listen to this story, and said, this is what, I'm going to go into medicine, I'm going to be a doctor, and these are the things we have to fix. These are the things we should be putting money at or giving money to. Why can we not do better than this? It amazed me. And it was sad as I was researching this, that was still something that we have to use today.
Yeah, that we didn't fix it yet.
I mean, there are other options. I'm not saying that's the only one, but it is still used because there aren't great options, and sometimes it's all people have.
Right, exactly. If you would like to make an impact on that, we would recommend a donation to Doctors Without Borders. So you can, they're on the front lines there battling sleeping sickness. DoctorsWithoutBorders.org.
That would be a wonderful thing for you to do.
Be a wonderful thing for you to do.
So inclined.
Okay, so Sydney, today, what do we use arsenic for?
Let me tell you about today. I want to tell you one quick point. This poor Dr. Ehrlich was raked over the coals for salvarsan, for this treatment he found for syphilis, which, like I said, was the only effective treatment for a really long time. Because if we treated people's syphilis, they were more likely to have more sex. That was the thought. So if you got syphilis, we should let you just have it as punishment. So don't treat it. So there was a lot of backlash from society.
Hey, people that are mad about that, I like to pretend that like bad doctors were the villains of Sawbones, but it's really you. It's really people like you creeps.
Yeah, let's treat the syphilis,
Let's just treat the syphilis, you creeps.
We all like to get a little loving now and then.
Hey, listen.
Ain't no crime in it.
Hey, listen. We're all just trying to get through this thing. Sydney, today, arsenic.
So mainly we think of arsenic as a poison.
Yep.
That's the primary thing. When you say arsenic, again, you think of things like Agatha Christie and Arsenic in Old Place. And if you get arsenic poisoning, it can be pretty dramatic. If you are poisoned with a lot of arsenic, and this wouldn't be something like I ate an apple that had a little bit of arsenic in it. This would be like somebody poisoned me.
Right.
Or there was a large amount in drinking water, which has happened, unfortunately, in the past. you can go into shock. You can have seizures. You can go into a coma. You can get really severe GI symptoms like bloody vomiting and diarrhea and dehydration. For chronic toxicity, meaning that like when you hear those stories of like somebody was slowly poisoning somebody over the years with arsenic,
right.
you know, those kinds of things. You can see some more like subtle symptoms. You can start to get like a peripheral neuropathy, meaning that you can get numbness and tingling and pain in your hands and feet, nerve damage and pain. You can get damage to your liver and kidneys. There's a classic kind of dermatitis, skin inflammation that we always call dewdrops on a dusty road. Because in medicine, these are the things.
Poetic.
These are the things we come up with. You can even get these like white lines on your fingernails. We call Mies lines that look like from some sort of injury, but it's actually arsenic exposure over time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do still use it in a couple different medical ways. Like there are medical, as I already said, like for sleeping sickness. In addition, they're studying the use of a form of arsenic to use in PET scans, which help to look for like the spread of maybe tumors throughout the body.
Mm-hmm.
They're studying it for that, to locate tumors better. The other thing that we use it for that I actually very recently have treated a patient with is to treat promyelocytic leukemia, specifically relapses of this. Since 2000, it's been FDA approved that we can use arsenic trioxide to treat leukemia.
Wow.
It is an effective treatment.
Look who's back.
Ever since Fowler's solution back in 1878, we knew that this was possible, and this absolutely is something that we use today. And again, I treated somebody with this not 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
I mean, not on my own. I'm not an oncologist. Like, I just helped.
But still, like, it's a thing.
It's still a thing that we do today.
Thank you to everybody for listening to our program. We sure appreciate you. Want to thank you to the MaximumFun.org network for hosting our show and letting us be a part of their extended podcasting family. Listen, want to remind you, if you haven't done this yet, another show I make, my brother and me, we're working on an expansion for a card game called Monikers, which if you haven't played it, it's sort of like a charades on steroids, I guess you could say.
It's a really fun game, and that comes from me, a person who doesn't really like games traditionally. I sound like such a bummer. They stress me out. They make me nervous, but it's super fun.
But we made an expansion for this game. We wrote all the cards for it, and there are a few cards that Sydney and I wrote based on Sawbones. So if you're a fan of Sawbones, you might want to check that out. McElroyCollection.com is where we're selling that for $10. It's an expansion. You get Monikers itself and the McElroy Collection for $35, I think. The expansion itself is just $10, but McElroyCollection.com. We are only selling that as a pre-order for the next 5 or 6 days, and then after that, it's over with. So if you would be interested in that, go pick it up. McElroyCollection.com. Sid, anything you want to plug? Anything going on out there?
The only other thing I'd say is we mentioned this last week. If you haven't checked it out, my dad, Tom Smurl, and my uncle Mike Meadows have a new podcast called Court Appointed, which is sort of like a legal version of what we do here on Sawbones, kind of telling you some interesting, weird facts on the history of different laws. And my dad cracks a bunch of corny dad jokes. And it's really funny and really cool. So check that out, Court Appointed. It's on iTunes and all other fine podcast distributors that you are used to checking.
Yeah, so check that out. It's a very good show. Thank you, the taxpayers, for the use of their song "Medicines" as the international of our program. You can find them on Bandcamp.
Lefty Williams.
As well as several. Let me double check that because I don't want to talk out. Yeah, taxpayers.com. Taxpayers.bandcamp.com is the address there. Go get that. They have a really cool alternate version of Medicines that we actually use in the before the billing department, but it's great. It's all very great, so go check it out. Folks, that's going to do it for us until the next time we have a medical topic for you. My name is Justin McElroy.
I'm Sydney McElroy.
And as always, don't drill a hole in your head.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture. Artist owned.
Listener supported.
Sawbones is a show about medical history, and nothing the hosts say should be taken as medical advice or opinion. It's for fun. Can't you just have fun for an hour and not try to diagnose your mystery boil? We think you've earned it. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy a moment of distraction from that weird growth. You're worth it.
All right. Song is about some books. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Medicines that escalate macabre for the mouth.
Hello.
It is. It's very hot and it's very muggy, which I understand most humans don't enjoy.
Yeah, but you're like deeply into it, huh?
I really like humidity. I think it feels nice. I think it feels like you're in a bathtub, except you're not. You're outside, and the air is like the water, except it's air, and you can breathe it.
It's like air.
Got it?
It's like
That
water
makes
you
sense.
can
Do you need
breathe.
me to explain that again?
That's medically sound.
Air.
That's more medically sound.
Air. Water you can breathe.
Okay. Humid air, right? Is water you can. It's like a big humidifier. God's just running his big old humidifier out there 24
And it
hours
feels
a day.
great.
It doesn't feel terrible.
I like when the air feels like the same as my skin.
It's been good though because we haven't had to wear a lot of sun coat because we just don't go outside that much because
No,
it's so hot.
it's just too hot to go outside.
We're very diligent about sunburns here in the McElroy family, but it is not always that way. Sometimes you try your best and it just doesn't work out.
We are both prone to burn.
Yeah,
And we
prone to
have
burn.
experienced that, unfortunately, in the past. Although I do want to make the point, though, even though we have burnt before, we are huge advocates of sunscreen and not getting burnt. And our daughter has never gotten a drop of sun.
The sun hath never touched her skin.
No. Her skin is as pale as the day she was born. It has never been otherwise because I hold her down and slather her head to toe in sunscreen every time she goes outside.
It's a workout.
Dead
It's
of
tough.
winter, she's wearing a snowsuit. There is no sun. She is slathered in sunscreen. That's an exaggeration.
But when you do get burnt, Sid, it's good because we got a cure-all. I mean, we got a cure for it. It cures all sunburns.
A cure-all for burns.
A cure-all for burns. It's aloe.
That's true. We do use a lot of aloe for that.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to have an aloe plant anymore. You can just have like a bottle of that green goo.
I remember getting burnt down in Florida once when I was a little kid, and my nanny had an aloe plant, and I thought it was so amazing to watch her like break a leaf off. It was like something out of a Krull or some other similar Lady Hawk, some other similar fancy property of the 80s. To watch her like break a leaf in half and take the goo out and put it on my skin, and it actually helped.
It is, isn't it? I remember Mom had one in the window when we were growing up, and her breaking that open when we'd get burned or something, and just thinking, wow,
It's amazing.
it's medicine.
Why
Right
are
there.
why are there more things like that? Like, why don't we have more plants going around to help us out?
Well, I mean, to be fair, there are some that would argue we do.
Yeah.
But we kind of do a podcast about how a lot of them don't work.
Oh yeah, that's a good argument. But let's talk about aloe.
Let's talk about aloe. First of all, thank you, Leslie, for recommending this topic. Aloe is probably the most commonly used medicinal plant. I think it's the one most people are familiar with. If you were to say, like, name a plant that has a medicine, most people would say, I don't know, aloe? I mean, there are others, but most people would say that, I think.
Yeah.
Specifically aloe vera.
Okay.
Is what you're usually talking about. Because there are different aloes. There are lots of aloes. Aloe is not one plant. There are many types of aloe. They're part of the lily family.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Aloe vera specifically, what we're talking about, is native to northern Africa. And the one that you're thinking of that people will call the true aloe, the one true aloe, is Aloe barbadensis Miller.
I went to school with an aloe barbadensis Miller, actually. Sweet girl.
Now,
a little slow, but sweet.
If you've seen you've probably seen the aloe plant. If you haven't, it's got these thick, pointy, kind of triangular shaped sort of leaves. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And they're real thick and they're kind of firm on the outside. And the leaves have different parts. There's like the outer protective layer, like the rind of it. If you break it open, there's the sap, which is like this just really bitter fluid in it that actually is specifically there so animals don't eat it.
Oh, weird.
It tastes bad.
Oh, okay.
you know, it's an evolutionary kind of thing. It adapted to be bitter.
That can't stop us, though.
No, it doesn't stop us, as I'll tell you about. Nothing stops us.
No. Once we get our mindset on something, we're pretty
humans.
Yeah.
Nothing stops us. No matter how bad the idea, nothing stops us. There's the mucilage gel, which is the inner part of the leaf that you take out that actually makes like what we think of as aloe.
Okay.
Like the gooey gel stuff. Right. Like there's a liquidy stuff and then stuff. And then there's the actual like inner gel, which that's the best part of the gel.
That's the real
good gel.
The dank gel.
That people will tell you has like the essential amino acids that you need. People who like say that aloe cures things other than, well, you know, a burn.
Okay.
Because there are those.
That's some foreshadowing, I'm assuming.
As we'll get into. But aloe goes back a really long time. We have been using aloe to cure various ailments since we were using anything to cure various ailments, essentially. It was one of our favorite plants to like eat and rub on ourselves.
Yeah.
As we are wont to do with plants. In Mesopotamia, aloe was eaten because it works well as a laxative.
Oh, great. Man, what can this plant do?
I mean, don't use it as a laxative.
Oh, okay.
It will give you severe abdominal cramps, but it will make you poop a lot.
You got that going for you then.
It does do that. There are just better ways of doing that. And it was kind of regarded as sacred, but that's largely because at the time, disease was thought to be like a curse, like something evil.
So it was like de facto sacred.
Exactly. Anything that, I don't know, it would have to be sacred to clean you out that efficiently. It must be the work of God.
Oh, wait, the X-Lax. They built a little altar around that. A little temple for it.
The Egyptians were fans of aloe. It is said that it was used in the beauty regimen of Cleopatra. I found that multiple places, but I also found multiple sources that said this was probably just a legend. I don't know.
That sounds like something that would be on a beauty website. Like,
doesn't it?
Doesn't it? It's a little questionable.
Cleopatra's beauty secret.
The secret of the Nile revealed. Today.
I'm sure I've seen that commercial now that you say that.
Yeah, it sounds real.
I feel like I definitely have. It maybe even so. Maybe Cleopatra did use it. It was used at the time. Let me say that, and it was used for a lot of skin issues. So the idea that it would have been rubbed on your face to keep your skin looking nice is not that far fetched. It had a lot of religious significance. For instance, you could hang it in a doorway to ward off evil. Mm-hmm. It was used to treat something that was probably tuberculosis. Like if you read, I mean, they weren't calling it that, but that's probably what we're talking about.
Ineffectively, I'm assuming.
Yes. And if you read the Ebers Papyrus, which we reference a lot, it advises many cures for many things, including aloe for any kind of inflammation or pain.
It's weird. I kind of feel bad. Like, we give old-timey people a hard time on the show a lot. But, like, this is a tough one because, yeah, I see where you guys are going with this. Like, I can see why you would think aloe would be good for all this stuff because it is, I mean, fair dinkum, if you put it on your skin after you get sunburn, it does feel better. Like,
it feels nice.
It feels nice.
And it looks, I will say this, the aloe plant looks like it's some sort of secret medicine because they're leaves and then you break them open and there's secret medicine goo inside. And that looks like something, I don't know, from like a video game or something. Like you don't expect that to happen and then it's there. And so I understand that. It looks more magical than a lot of plants.
Yeah.
Aloe had a price associated with it. Aloe was valuable. So, for instance, if you were going to attend a funeral of someone who was important, especially like a pharaoh or someone who was, well regarded, well thought of, higher in the caste system, you would bring something to it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say like a price. There wasn't like an admission price. But if you were going to show up, you better bring something.
Sure.
Don't come empty-handed.
Like a potluck.
Because, people were buried with all of their worldly possessions mm-hmm. and lots of things they didn't possess that were kind of offered up with them. And a pound of aloe was a pretty well accepted, like this is something you could bring to a funeral and would make you look pretty good. Now, the more aloe you could bring, the better. The idea being that if aloe keeps us, it was supposed to give us longevity, keep us alive longer, keep us looking younger and that kind of thing, that it would also be good for a dead person, like to spiritually...
Sure.
And they would just provide them immortality.
And they would just bury it with them?
Yeah.
Wow. Hot tip for Sawbones listeners. If y'all can get out there, there's some free aloe in the ground just like sitting there. If you find an old-timey temple, it's just going to be chock full of free aloe.
Are you telling them to rob graves for aloe?
Rob graves for free aloe.
I'm not going to tell our listeners to rob graves.
No, but also where you could
Free aloe.
where you also could have gone with that is to tell me that it's a plant and is almost certainly dust. Right now, that's another angle you could take to thwart my plan if you're just going to be antagonistic.
Hey, listen, I'm a doctor, not a botanist. Okay.
Fair enough.
It was also used with myrrh when you were prepping bodies and clothes for burial and that kind of thing. You would, we think about myrrh a lot, but aloe is also part of that. That's actually mentioned biblically as well. It was associated with youth and beauty and immortality. There's a legend that the Knights of Templar made a drink out of aloe and palm wine and hemp, and they called it the elixir of Jerusalem, and it was used to make you live longer.
Cool.
I didn't know the Knights of Templar were real. I thought that was something from the Da Vinci Code or something.
Some from Assassin's Creed. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Apparently they're real, right?
I can't help you with this one, Sid. I'm sorry, you're out there on the wire by yourself.
Am I being tricked? I don't know. Again, I'm a doctor. I'm not a historian.
Yeah. Okay, let's just hope the Knights Templar are real.
This episode is where I tell you all the things I am not an expert in.
Right.
There is an island of Socotra, which is near the Horn of Africa, and it is known for having lots of aloe. A lot of aloe plants grow there. And there is a legend, and then this is known to be possibly not true. This is a legend. We don't know that this is necessarily the motivation, but Alexander the Great conquered this island. And one of the legends about why he did this was because Aristotle said, hey, they've got a lot of aloe there.
Nice.
You should conquer them.
Yeah. And it's just there, and they buried it, those dummies. It's just waiting for you to scoop it up.
It's just all there, so go get it. And he did. Now, it is known that Alexander the Great used aloe in his soldier, for his soldiers in battle. He would have carts with aloe plants, live growing plants on them, carted alongside the soldiers on the battlefield, so that if someone got wounded, you would have instant aloe.
Aloe boy over here.
Exactly. It was sort of like the water boy.
After they won every fight, they would dump a cask of aloe onto Alexander the Great's head. No, it'd be hugely unpleasant. Yeah, for sure.
Not just you mean the actual plants.
He actually started trying to lose at some point. He's like, please, I can't go.
Please stop throwing aloe plants at me.
They're so spiny.
So maybe he did. He liked aloe. He was a fan of it. He used it on wounds a lot. Maybe he did. In India, it was called the silent healer. As it spread throughout the world, it got different names. In China, the harmonic remedy. In Russia, the elixir of longevity. It's also mentioned in Song of Solomon in the Bible, which, to my understanding, is the
sexy part.
the racy part of the Bible.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little racy.
That's what Justin tells me.
It's called Bible After Dark.
Is that what you call it?
That's what we call that one.
When you were a naughty kid in Sunday school, is that what you?
Whoa, this is racy stuff.
Let's open the Bible to the Song of Solomon.
Yeah.
Find out about life. It spread along trade routes because, like I said, it had value to it. It could be traded for other goods and products and things, and so its medical uses expanded from there. We see it advised by Dioscorides to be used for everything. This is when you really start to see aloe as kind of a panacea. So boils, itchy skin, ulcerated genitals.
Sure.
Which, I imagine you're just going to try anything on at that point. Bruising, bleeding, your tonsils, gum, or throat problems, it was good for. Sunburn.
Hey.
Yeah. Acne, hair loss, as well as particularly good for soothing the foreskin.
Just when it's had a rough day.
That was...
Sorry.
Okay, moving on. Pliny agreed with actually a lot of Pliny the Elder, show friend of the show.
Friend of the show,
Pliny the Elder, agreed with a lot of these uses. He actually checked out a lot of the ones Dioscorides had claimed and was like, oh, let me look into this. Oh, you're right. Yes, I agree with all these things, definitely.
Yes, good. I'll put this in my book, too.
Which is always what Pliny said about anything. Yeah, that works.
Sure.
That works on that, too. Sure, it probably works for that,
Who am I to sit here and judge?
He also added, by the way, because he had to put his own spin on everything.
Got to remix everything.
He added that it was also good for leprosy, and that it could be used as an antiperspirant.
Sure.
So leprosy, sweating, all things.
Can we establish something real quick? And you probably will talk about this a little later, maybe. But it does relieve pain, right? That's not a hoax.
Of a sunburn or something.
Yeah.
It is soothing for sunburnt skin.
Soothing.
Yes.
But does not. Okay, so you're making a distinction between whether or not it blocks pain receptors in the brain as pain relief, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are other ways to soothe pain other than blocking pain relief receptors in the brain, though.
Right.
That is one method of pain relief.
It doesn't numb the skin.
Well, I would say this: if it soothes the skin and you get pain relief from it, then it is relieving pain.
All right, you're arguing semantics here.
I am. That's just semantics. Yes, it does. People will use it on a sunburn.
That doesn't necessarily imply medicinal, though. Like if you rub ice on it, it doesn't make it medicine.
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Ding ding ding.
All right, keep
ding
going.
Ding ding.
Sorry.
Is a heating pad on your back when your muscles are sore medicine?
No, sweetie. You're a doctor. You should know this.
Okay. Proving my point. Anyway, the Chinese Materica Medica in the 7th century talked about also using it for sinusitis as well as against skin conditions. Skin conditions are a common theme with all of this. Right. A lot of people agree that if you have something wrong with your skin and you put aloe on it, it at least feels better, even if it's not getting better. It was brought to the New World largely by the Jesuit priests of Spain who... it was even said that it was like brought on ships, like the plants themselves were grown and like carried across the oceans and brought on ships. It's mentioned that maybe even Christopher Columbus had this.
Whoa, nice.
Aloe on his ships. I'm not sure. And it was used for various healing purposes. And then they also found other versions of aloe plants growing in the New World already. So, we began to see that this was widespread, which again kind of perpetuated this idea like, oh, this must be like a magical healing plant because it's everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere humans are found.
Anybody else? Tell me about some more.
Well, I'm going to tell you about some more, but first, why don't you come with me to the billing department?
Let's go.
The medicines that escalate macabre for the mouth.
Folks, we want to talk to you about MeUndies. You spend a lot of your life in underwear. You should make them the most comfortable underwear humanly possible. And that is MeUndies. From where I sit, and where I sit is in a pair of MeUndies.
That's true. I save MeUndies to wear on my days that are like really long, hard work days, and I know I'm going to need something super comfy down there. That's what MeUndies is for.
They are made of modal, and that is a fabric that is twice as soft as cotton, and you really have to sort of experience it for yourself. And the good news is, it is very affordable to do so. Shipping is free in the U.S. and Canada for starters. You can save up to $8 a pair with the MeUndies subscription plan. Get the subscription or get a single pair, and you're going to get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/sawbones. That's MeUndies.com/sawbones for 20% off your first order.
MeUndies.com/sawbones.
That's it. Also bringing you the show this week is Club W. You're probably not a wine expert, or in the slang, if you want to get into the community slang, sommelier.
Or maybe you are a wine expert, but don't brag about it, okay?
Don't brag about it. And you know what? Even
be cool.
Even if you are a wine expert or no, you're going to love Club W because you're going to log onto their site. You're going to tell them about your flavor preferences. What kind of flavors do you like? Not what kind of wines. You could go to the store and do that. They're going to help match you. It's like Match.com, but for wine.
But for you and wine.
For you and wine.
That's a match that's going to last a lifetime.
Yeah, because the wine will always be there for you no matter what. This is a great service. They have a ton of great stuff, and it's very affordable wine. But even better, right now, Club W is offering our listeners $20 off your first order when you go to clubw.com/sawbones. And I know what you're thinking, Sid. Shipping. Ugh.
I hate paying for shipping.
I know you do, and don't worry, because Club W is going to cover it for you on orders of 4 bottles or more. So just go to clubw.com/sawbones and get $20 off your first order now. That is clubw.com/sawbones.
Hey, Max Fun community. This is your friend Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love, and a bunch of other stuff. I am a longtime member, supporter, and devoted follower of Maximum Fun. And now finally I have my own podcast on the network. It's called Magic Lessons, and it is me coaching people through their creative issues and problems. This season, we have some amazing creators that we're helping through their joys and struggles of making something out of nothing. And then I bring in special guests like Glennon Doyle Melton, Brandon Stanton, Martha Beck, the poet Mark Nepo, Michael Ian Black, Sarah Jones, Gary Scheingart, these amazing friends of mine to come and help coach these people so that they can get their work done. And I hope you'll tune into it. It's called Magic Lessons, and it's all about love.
All right, so you said you had some other folks for me to hear about.
Yeah, that's true. The really interesting thing as we go through the history of aloe is that every culture who came in contact with aloe was like immediately intrigued by its possible medicinal uses. and part of that is through where it came from. You know, if it was, like I said, like if the Jesuit priests were bringing it to the New World and saying, hey, look at this medicinal plant, obviously you would assume it was. But even other places where they didn't necessarily have that first contact kind of assumed it had medicinal value. There was a Swedish Dr. Ernst who devised a health tonic based mostly around aloe. It is the active ingredient. There are other ingredients, but it is considered the active ingredient. And it was Swedish bitters. So we've mentioned before on the show, or you may already be familiar with the idea that there are a lot of alcoholic things. I don't want to call it a beverage. Bitters aren't really a beverage.
No, I mean mixers.
It's like a mixer. There are a lot of things like mixers that were initially devised as sort of like health tonics where you could get like secret drinking in, especially during Prohibition.
Mixers isn't even right either, because mixers would tend to imply like
Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. This Halloween I'm going to get a little real with you, but since I am pairing Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. This Halloween I'm going to get a little real with you, but since I am pairing Irish I don't
or ginger ale or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would say. Tipple? Tipple?
Whatever you would want to call bitters.
A dash of something cheerful.
And initially, it was something that didn't necessarily taste very good, but a lot of things like that were thought to be good for you.
Sure.
It was supposed to contain a lot of things that were like health tonics, like good boosters to your health and that kind of thing. And then the secret bonus is that it was also alcoholic, and so you could get like secret drinking in, even though the government wasn't letting you.
And bitters, in case you never tried them, aren't that bitter. You know.
No, they're really not.
Bitters aren't bitter. They're the pepper of the drink. So give bitters a try. It might taste better than you think. I just wrote that poem about bitters.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You just wrote that poem?
Yeah. Just wrote that poem about bitters.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you messing with me?
No, I wrote it just now.
Because it sounds like a jingle that you heard.
It does sound like a jingle, but I wrote it off the top of my head.
TM. Right now.
Trademark it.
Okay. Mail it to yourself later.
Okay.
Mail us this podcast later.
Yeah. Everybody put this podcast in an envelope and...
with $1 and mail it to us.
No, wait. This is running into a money laundering scheme.
I was trying to run a scam. Don't listen to me. I'll stop scamming you now. So the health tonic, Swedish bitters, it was an ounce of aloe, a gross of zedawari root, gentian root, the best of saffron, a gross of fine rhubarb root, a gross of larch fungus, a gross of theriac venetian, all mixed with a pint of good quality brandy.
Sure.
Let brew for 10 days, then filter.
That sounds great.
There it is. And the doctor's prescription of this, so you have a big bottle of it now, right?
Okay.
You got a big bottle of it. So what you're going to do is take 7 to 8 drops every morning. And that's only 7 to 8 drops. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
except,
too bad.
Except you could dilute it in wine.
Ah, perfect. Okay.
So 7 to 8 drops diluted in wine. If you want to use tea or bouillon, you can, but I mean wine. And then, you're gonna live forever without needing to ever have bloodletting done.
Perfect. Excellent.
That was the specific thing it was remedied to fix. You won't need a doctor to cut you and bleed you.
It's a good alternative, a fun alternative.
Which what I love about that is, let's imagine that the doctor prescribing it to you is like also the doctor who would, if you were sick, bleed you for that illness. If you take this, I don't have to bleed you.
Well, it's like
a threat.
Listen, I shouldn't even be telling you this. My manager is in the next room, and if he heard me trying to cut us out of a bloodletting sale, he would just kill me. But really, if you pick up this bottle of bitters, you're not going to need to get bloodletting. But don't, seriously, you didn't hear that from me.
Also, you get to drink it in wine.
You get to drink it whenever you want.
In Sanskrit, aloe is known as Grita Kumari. Kumar means girl, and it was believed that this plant had something to do with the energy of women, specifically young women, and like a rejuvenating, revitalizing effect on women and our female nature. And all of that is to say it was prescribed for your lady times.
Oh, great. Okay.
For your difficult monthly visitor, Aunt Flo.
Got it. No, you don't need to lay it out for me anymore.
When you're surfing the crimson
okay,
wave.
I'm 35. Like, I get it. I know what's happening here.
So it was prescribed for periods. To, like, I don't know.
Chill them out.
Chill women out.
I guess.
Thank you. That's exactly what I want when I'm on my period. Hand me some aloe.
Just chill.
I'll throw that out and just take the wine. Thank you very much. Around 1100 and through the Middle Ages, there was Hildegard of Bingen, who was famous for using aloe. She was a Benedictine nun, and she recommended that you start using aloe for icterus, which means it's related to jaundice.
Okay.
Too much bilirubin.
Got it.
Kind of where we're going with there. So basically some sort of liver problem, any kind of infections of the stomach, headaches, dental caries, so cavities. That's actually something that persists to this day, this idea that aloe is good for cavities.
Yeah.
And then any kind of ulcers as well. And so you start to see, again, more and more wound care being done. Throughout the ages, a lot of these ideas about what aloe could be good for and what you can use it for have kind of stuck. So as we go around the world, you've seen a lot of different cultures, aloe is still being used as kind of like a folk remedy or and I don't mean like in there, like a doctor's prescribing aloe instead of some sort of medicine. I'm really talking about like home remedies, folk medicine.
Right.
The same kind of stuff you find in the U.S., especially in like rural places. Here, I see a lot of this kind of thing. But in the Philippines, it's often used with milk, and you drink it for like kidney infections, aloe and milk. In Japan, you can find a lot of yogurt flavored with aloe. I guess there are also aloe flavored beverages.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I've never had.
I've never thought of aloe having a flavor, but I'm sure, I guess it does.
I mean, it must, yeah. And then in India, there's a region that uses it in its curry, famously.
Oh, okay.
Nowadays, it's used for mainly skin stuff, specifically burns, right? I think that's where we all kind of think of aloe being used.
My first thought, yeah.
Right? You've got that, you can either get the plant itself or like the green jelly stuff that comes in a bottle that you can slather all over yourself and you got a sunburn. It's tried for anything on skin. So you'll see, especially a lot of like naturopaths or herbalist kind of websites, like you'll see it recommended for any kind of skin condition, like put it on your eczema, put it on your psoriasis. I think aloe feels, I've put aloe on before. I think it feels good.
It feels good.
So I think if you have like an inflammatory skin condition that is uncomfortable, it would help in that regard. Now, is it fixing the problem? That's a whole other issue. So there have been studies done to see on burns. A lot of studies on, especially like minor little burns, like not major hospitalized burns, but minor burns and sunburns. Does it actually heal the burn faster?
I don't know.
Some studies say yes. I mean, like impressively so. Like I found studies that were like it will reduce, on average, the days that it takes to heal something by 9 days, which is like a crazy amount of time.
Yeah.
That would be huge if it really did that. But then there are other studies that say there really is no difference. Whether you put aloe on it or not,
science?
It's not a big deal. What you'd have to do is go study by study and critique how many people are in it, what methods did they use, what kind of burns did they have, what were the differences between the people, like were some of them sicker than others and so they would heal slower already, what kind of aloe was used on everybody, was it the exact same amount? I don't know. I didn't read every single one of these studies, so I'm not going to be able to tell you that. Everybody can agree, though, that you shouldn't put it on open wounds, and there was only one study that suggested maybe aloe made your healing time a little slower. So based on all of the other evidence saying that it either helps or doesn't hurt, I would say that it probably at least doesn't hurt. I think you can at least take that home. If aloe makes something feel better and it's not an open wound, then it's not dangerous for you to put on it. Okay. And even if it's not necessarily making things heal faster. Some people do drink, as I mentioned, the juice for a laxative. Don't do that.
Don't do that. It'll give you stomach cramps.
Right, exactly.
That's my official recommendation.
Hey, where'd you learn that, Justin?
This podcast.
Which is true. I mean, it will work as a laxative. That is true. But do not use it.
Not worth the price.
There are many things that work as a laxative. We've covered many of them on this show. There are small trials that are checking it out for things like inflammatory bowel disease, like ulcerative colitis, and also for irritable bowel syndrome. But a lot of this is early and inconclusive and small, and aloe's everywhere. A lot of people, like I said, have aloe plants in their windowsill. So as we've alluded to before, it's going to be hard to get like a big, giant, well-funded, double-blind study for a lot of this stuff.
There's just not cash in it.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have a strong suspicion that it's the secret cure to everything that we've been missing all along either. So that's the other thing. If you're going to put all the money behind something, you better have a pretty darn good reason to think it's a secret remedy.
But it is the beauty secret of the Nile.
It is that. It's been tried on diabetes as well, and like I mentioned, like cavities, same thing. I don't know that there's enough convincing evidence out there. You will find it recommended on the internet for everything.
I assume.
Yes, and what I would say is that it does moisturize your skin, and it soothes burns, makes them feel better. I've used them on sunburns, and it does in fact make them feel better, and possibly makes you heal a little faster. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. I don't know. I see a lot of the reasoning. I thought this was interesting. Over and over again, the reason that people think that aloe works. Do you know what it is?
Why?
Because it's been around for a really long time, and a lot of different people use it.
And it's green.
Well, I don't know.
It seems helpful.
It does. I mean, it does. It doesn't look magical to me, but that green gel does look like something that would it looks like an active compound.
Yeah.
It actually looks like it might make you turn into a superhero.
Yeah, it doesn't do that, though. You're pretty sure no convincing double-blind studies.
Do you want to try it out?
I'd rather not.
That being said, there's one other better thing I would say than using aloe on a sunburn.
What's that?
Don't get burnt.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing. Yes, aloe will help with your sunburn. You'd be better off never having to use aloe on a sunburn because you never got sunburnt in the first place. Don't get sunburned.
It's damage every time, folks.
That's absolutely right. Wear your sunscreen. Use some common sense. Reapply.
Don't mess around with it. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening to our program. Thanks to the taxpayers for letting us use their song Medicines as the intro and outro to our program. And thank you to the Maximum Fun Network for having us as a part of their family. There's a lot of good shows you can listen to there, like Still Buffering, which Sydney hosts with her sisters. It's about teen life yesterday and today. There's The Adventure Zone, which is a game where I play D&D with my brothers. And another brand new non-Max Fun podcast we wanted to mention to you all.
That's right. You may remember my dad, Low Country Tom Smurl from Still Buffering, or my Uncle Michael, Scampy Mike. From Still Buffering. They have their new podcast, their own podcast, Court Appointed, which is the history of some crazy, interesting, funny laws or the legal history behind different issues. For instance, like their first episode was on Pokemon Go and all of the legal issues surrounding that. Michael is a real lawyer, so he actually has expertise on these things, and my dad makes a lot of dad jokes about it.
Yeah, so it's not, if you're a fan of this show, it's not completely dissimilar from this with more of a legal take. But it's called Court Appointed, and it's on iTunes, and you can also find it on Facebook. They have a group there, but check it out. I think you'll like it.
It's good.
And it's recorded right here in Sawbone Studio in beautiful Huntington, West Virginia. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for your time. Until next week, my name is Justin McElroy.
I'm Sydney McElroy.
And as always, don't drill a hole in your head.
MaximumFun.org.
Don't forget you can find early episodes right now at tunein.com/serialkillers, or just download the free TuneIn app and search Serial Killers.
We love hearing from our listeners about serial killers that intrigue you, and we've had several requests for one in particular, Jack the Ripper.
Discussing the most notorious serial killer of all time is no simple undertaking, and since the Ripper's crimes remain unsolved, we recruited our friends Carter and Wendy, hosts of the podcast Unsolved Murders True Crime Stories, to help. We're releasing 3 bonus episodes on Jack the Ripper. We'll have a new episode out every Thursday for the next 3 weeks. The episodes will drop on your regular Serial Killers feed, in addition to our regular episodes on Mondays.
Or for those of you who like binge listening, all 3 special episodes will be released November 2nd on TuneIn. Just search Jack the Ripper on the free TuneIn app or tunein.com.
We hope you enjoy. Due to the graphic nature of this killer's crimes, listener discretion is advised. This episode includes dramatizations and discussions of murder and assault that some people may find offensive. We advise extreme caution for children under 13.
I love you, Gwen. I think you're great. For this afternoon, I cannot wait. That's when I'll wake up, and that's when I'll kiss you. That's when I'll hold you. Oh, Gwen, I miss you. Bunny hop over here and let me lick you on the ear. I want to get married, right now, right away. Don't make me wait till the day. When you're mine, oh please say, you'll be mine, forever and 5 days.
What you've just heard is the text of a poem written by Kathy Wood to her then lover, Gwendolyn Graham, nearing the end of their tenure as nurses at the Alpine Manor Nursing Home. At first glance, it appears to be a tender expression of love from one woman to another. The only possible crime the authors committed is the crime of amateur poetry. But this poem, scrawled on a sheet of nurses' notes stationery, was actually the artifact of an abusive relationship, the chronicle of a vicious medical killing spree which claimed the lives of at least 5 Alpine Manor patients in Walker, Michigan. Hi, I'm Greg Polson, and this is Serial Killers. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the lives of Gwendolyn Graham and Kathy Wood, a pair of nurses who melded murder with their sexual relationship, leading the papers to label them the lethal lovers. I'm here with my co-host, Vanessa Richardson. Vanessa's not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, but she's done a lot of research for this show.
Hi, everyone. We'd like to ask a quick favor. Would you leave a 5-star review of Serial Killers on your favorite podcast directory? It seems so simple, but it really helps us out.
And don't forget to subscribe while you're there, because a new episode comes out every Monday. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram @Parcast, and on Twitter @Parcast Network. A quick note. In this week's episode, all quotes will be performed by actors. However, these lines are quoted from primary research sources and presented exactly as those people stated them.
In the winter of 1987, from the month of January to the month of March, nurses Gwendolyn Graham and Kathy Wood smothered 5 of their patients as part of a murderous love pact. They targeted the weakest among the old and sickly people they were charged to protect, women with Alzheimer's and dementia. They killed for thrills, sexual gratification, and the hope that the killings would forever bind them together. In the end, their hopes became a gruesome reality.
It's hard to believe a person who selects a normally selfless career like nursing would murder their own patients.
I know what you mean, Greg. It follows that they're one of the rarest types of serial killers.
They're called angels of death, medical killers. Like you said, they are the rarest of 3 main types of serial murders, defined by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What separates medical killers from the other 2 types, organized and disorganized killers, is that they become involved in the medical industry to satisfy their pathological desires.
Gwen Graham and Kathy Wood were medical killers, but their case stands out because of a number of unusual details. They worked as a team and carried out the killings as part of the basis for their sexual relationship.
Why would this type of relationship ever develop? The answers to that question are embedded within the psychology of these 2 women.
Let's jump right into it. Many of the pathologies exhibited by serial killers, especially those with sexual motivations, are rooted in childhood experience. From what we discussed prior to the show, it sounds like Gwen Graham and Kathy Wood both had extremely turbulent youths. Let's start there.
Okay, we'll begin with Gwen. Gwen Graham spent most of her formative years on a farm outside of Tyler, Texas, where her family moved shortly after she finished the 5th grade. Her father was a hard man, with hard-set, provincial, and often abusive ideas about how a child should be raised. He believed Gwen needed to understand the processes of life and death. He tried to teach her by forcing her to watch the beheading of chickens and the slaughter of pigs. At a young age, she became well acquainted with the processes which turn animals from living creatures into food. But this early introduction to death didn't stop with just livestock. When Gwen was 11 years old, her dog Misty barked at a horse, causing the rider to be thrown. Gwen's father made her watch as he forced her brother to shoot the little dog. The experience haunted Gwen. So much so that shortly after her dog's death, she went into the yard where Misty was buried and dug up her remains. She couldn't let go of the trauma, just like she couldn't let go of Misty's teeth and skull, which she kept in an alabaster heart box until her arrest.
That certainly sounds like a traumatic experience, Greg, especially for a child. Children are disproportionately affected by the death of a loved one or an animal because they lack the experience of adults. They have difficulty with finality and entertain fancies of their loved one returning from the dead. When they're exposed to death at a young age and in such a cruel, callous manner, they find the experience difficult to process. A parent or other mentor can help them understand death, but it sounds like Gwen's father had a really sick idea of parenting. Where was her mother through all of this? Did she have a close relationship with Gwen?
Unfortunately, no. Her father's tyrannical parenting style also tainted Gwen's relationship with her mother. A hard and fast rule he kept in their household was that Gwen was never to be held by her mother while she was a baby. He believed that giving a child over to its mother's embrace made the child weak. As a result, Gwen spent most of her early development untouched by her mother. It's taken as common knowledge that a baby needs to be held by its mother, but what psychological effects does this sort of deprivation have on a child? Could Gwen's separation from her mother have contributed to her development into a serial killer?
Absolutely. Children who don't receive maternal support do worse in school, have stunted emotional development, and are far more likely to develop psychological disorders such as early onset depression.
Do they need their mother, or can dad do the job?
Actually, yes, paternal support does the trick. A study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that as long as a child is nurtured by a parent, it doesn't matter which sex that parent is.
But Gwen received care from neither. What's the reason behind the psychological problems that form when a child isn't held by a parent?
You might be surprised to hear that psychological problems caused by a lack of nurture are actually rooted in biology. Studies have shown that the human brain's physical development is influenced by the psychosocial development which is supposed to occur during childhood. Nurturing a child early in its development stimulates growth of the hippocampus, the region of the brain associated with learning, memory, and stress responses. In addition, these early social experiences increase the volume of the amygdala, responsible for the processing and memory of emotional reactions. It's more than likely these parts of Gwen's brain never fully developed because she was neglected in childhood.
And that's why she had difficulty coping with stress and controlling her emotions. Both hallmarks of serial killer personalities.
That's right, Greg. Those are also symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Go on, though. Was there any other turbulence in Gwen's youth that we haven't discussed yet?
Well, in her teenage years, Gwen's father became a violent substance abuser. On many occasions, he got excessively drunk and sexually molested her. At this dark time in her life, Gwen started to cut herself and put cigarettes out on her arms. By the time she left home, Gwen had 31 different scars up both her arms, from cigarette burns and razor blades.
Wow, it sounds like BPD. People with borderline personality disorder often displace their emotional pain by inflicting physical pain upon themselves. Hurting themselves physically distracts them from their emotional pain.
Later in life, Gwen claimed her identity as a lesbian. Could her molestation have contributed to her sexual orientation?
Well, I'm not sure, Greg. There is an ongoing debate regarding the origins of homosexuality. Some experts believe that people are born gay, while others insist that homosexuality develops later in life. There's evidence on both sides. Is molestation a factor specifically? Again, it's unclear. Studies have found that male homosexuals report childhood sexual abuse with significantly more frequency than heterosexual males. However, this might be due to the fact that heterosexuals are less likely to report being raped by a member of the same sex.
Well, wait, why are we talking about men if these killers are female?
Well, there's less to talk about. A relationship between homosexuality and childhood sexual abuse was far more visible in cases involving men.
Well, why is that?
I found an explanation in a study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior entitled, "Does Physical Abuse, Sexual Abuse, or Neglect in Childhood Increase the Likelihood of Same-Sex Sexual Relationships and Cohabitation? A Prospective 30-Year Follow-Up."
It seems like psychologists have a running competition to see who can come up with the longest, most confusing title for their research.
I can't argue with that. But regardless of what it was called, it had some good information. In their study, psychologists Kathy Whittam and Helen Wilson found that women commit less than 7% of sexual offenses against children. And because of this, boys who are sexually abused in childhood are far more likely than young girls to be forced into a homosexual encounter. That type of experience could make a heterosexual boy doubt his sexuality.
But since Gwen was molested by a person of the opposite sex, this was never an issue.
Yes. However, being molested by a man could have had such a negative impact on her that she felt safer with a woman, especially when it came to intimacy.
I see. Well, that's about all I've got for Gwen's childhood. What do you say we move on to Kathy's youth?
Good idea. We'll do that right after this break.
Time to share a Parcast favorite.
I have to admit, I'm turning into a smoothie addict.
Oh, really? And what started this?
Well, ever since I started making my daily harvest smoothies, I just can't get enough. Their smoothies are so delicious and convenient. Daily Harvest sends superfood eats straight to your door with your choice of smoothies, activated breakfast bowls, or nice cream vegan sundaes.
The single-serving cups come frozen, both preserving the nutritional value of the ingredients and providing you with food that can be prepared in no time at all.
Exactly. When I'm in a rush to get my kids to school in the morning, all it takes is 30 seconds to add almond milk or water to the smoothie cup and blend it up.
Go to daily-harvest.com and enter promo code SerialKillers to get 3 items free off your first box. That's promo code SerialKillers for 3 free Daily Harvest cups at daily-harvest.com. daily-harvest.com.
What if shopping could be as convenient as Daily Harvest smoothie delivery? Well, now it can. Stitch Fix is an online styling service that mails clothes, shoes, and accessories picked just for you. All you have to do is fill out your style profile online, and Stitch Fix does the rest.
So they just send you a box of clothes whenever you want?
Yes. There's no subscription required. You can get your fix monthly, quarterly, or whenever you feel like it. So if you have an event coming up and need a new outfit, or if you just feel like revamping your wardrobe a bit, you can order a Stitch Fix box.
So what's in each box exactly?
Well, each box contains 5 items you can try on at home, so you can see what works with your wardrobe. You only pay for the items you keep.
Well, that's really cool. Get started now at stitchfix.com/cereal, and you'll also get 25% off when you keep all 5 items in your box. That's stitchfix.com/cereal. To try Stitch Fix today, stitchfix.com/cereal.
Now back to the story.
Kathy Wood was born at an Army base in Washington State, where her father was stationed in 1962. After Kathy's sister Barbara was born, the family moved to Massachusetts. Shortly thereafter, her father was shipped off to fight in the Vietnam War. He wasn't around often. Barbara recollects that growing up in a military family fostered a strong bond between her and Kathy.
But aside from her sister, Kathy had difficulty forming relationships and didn't socialize often. She was a smart kid, fascinated by books, and spent a lot of time alone in her bedroom reading. Barbara speculates that she did this to escape social life on the schoolyard, where the other children were very cruel to her.
Kathy was a big girl, tall and also heavy. As cruel as other children were, the biggest hit to her self-esteem likely came from her father. He wasn't around often, preoccupied with his military career, and when he was not supportive.
Our society pressures young girls to be beautiful way too much. When they start to mature sexually, this pressure redoubles. What was puberty like for Kathy?
Tough, it seems. When Kathy was 13, the age she had started to become interested in boys, her father criticized her mercilessly for her physical appearance and made her feel very ugly. Despite low self-esteem, Kathy got into a relationship with a boy named David, who drove a pink Cadillac sporting a bumper sticker which read, "Labor Pains." The two went to movies, made out in David's car, and generally carried out a normal relationship, until the day Kathy had met David's mother. She went to David's home, the pink Cadillac parked conspicuously in the driveway, and asked for him.
Hello. Is David home?
His mother was confused. She didn't have a boy. She had a girl. She led Kathy inside and showed her a photograph. It was a girl with long flowing hair wearing a floral patterned dress. It was David.
Must have been quite a shock.
I know, I did not see that coming.
Well, surely, Greg, but I meant for Kathy.
Oh.
Such a sudden revelation about one's significant other, especially for an adolescent who was experimenting sexually for the first time, was bad for Kathy's interpersonal and sexual development moving forward. An intimate lie from an early sexual partner fosters a lack of trust in other relationships.
No, wait, hold on. Was David transgender?
No, we know from interviews with her later in life that David identifies as a woman. She actually goes by her given name, Debbie, but we'll keep referring to her as David because that's how Kathy knew her. But still, for Kathy to be on the receiving end of this deception must have been very confusing. From what we've learned about her family life, I don't suspect she could have counted on her parents to help her understand the situation.
No, she couldn't. The subject was never brought up in their household. Kathy wasn't allowed to talk about sex, and so she couldn't discuss her ordeal with David with her parents.
Oh, that's a shame. A good line of communication with one's parents is conducive to helping a child understand their sexual impulses and experiences. An adult is far more experienced with sexual culture and, with the right language, can help a child understand the biological and behavioral changes associated with adolescence. It's also more difficult for homosexual teens to broach the topic of sexuality with their parents.
Why is that?
Well, some parents are not understanding and will throw them out on the street if they learn the truth. Gay teens are more likely to suffer harassment at home or to be kicked out of their homes than heterosexual ones. If Kathy couldn't go to her parents, what did she do after the truth about David was revealed to her?
Well, that's the thing. Even after David's mother showed her the photograph, Kathy was still confused. She still didn't know if David was a boy or a girl. So Kathy caught up with David and confronted her, and she told David she knew she was a girl. Then the two of them had sex in an abandoned house.
What?
Kathy said she made herself sleep with her so she could see everything. Only then did she accept that her first lover was female. What does Kathy's sexual development have to do with her genesis into a serial killer?
That will become more clear later on as we unpack the murders. Kathy and Gwen committed crimes with a sexual motivation, and the development of these murderous sexual urges can be traced back to their tumultuous sexual development. Greg, we should take a moment to make one thing crystal clear. I think I speak for us both when I say we're not suggesting that Kathy's sexual orientation influenced her development into a serial killer in any direct way. However, it probably contributed to her sense of isolation, rejection, and confusion as a result of the social stigmas against homosexuals, which I discussed.
That's right, Vanessa. We don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. Furthering your point, though, those social stigmas led to David's deception, and this was a traumatic experience for Kathy.
Well, you sound like you have a specific reason for saying that, Greg.
Well, at 16, Kathy repeated the experience with her next lover. He was, as Kathy described him, obviously a man. Ken Wood was a heavyset man, a few years Kathy's senior. After their first date, Kathy made sure they ended up at his apartment. There, she had him undress. But she wasn't interested in sex, only in making sure that he was biologically a man. When she saw that he was indeed a man, she was satisfied she could trust him and had him get dressed. After a short courtship, Kathy became pregnant, and she and Ken were married. Ken took Kathy away from her troublesome family life, and the pair of them moved to Walker, Michigan, where she gave birth to her daughter, Jacqueline, in February of 1980.
I'm guessing they didn't live happily ever after. Why? Because Kathy's need to know Ken's true gender shows that she wanted to form a normal relationship rather than one compatible with her sexuality. The pregnancy rushed them into marriage before they could decide if they were right for each other.
Yes, her relationship with Ken was marred by sexual incompatibility. Though Kathy wasn't happy with Ken, she felt dependent on him. They stayed together for another 7 years, before Kathy demanded a divorce in 1986. Ken left with her daughter without a fuss from Kathy. Once she was on her own, Kathy had to look for a job. Because she had no skills, she began filling out applications everywhere. One of them was for the job of nurse's aide at the Alpine Manor nursing home, not far from where she lived. She had experience in her teenage years as a candy striper. That is, a volunteer nurse, so-called for the red and white stockings, which accompanied the uniform in those days. She had fond memories of the job and thought the experience would carry over. She got the job, bought a truck, and started to feel like she could make her own decisions. She had a new sense of independence at Alpine Manor without Ken.
And it was at Alpine Manor that Kathy would encounter Gwen for the first time. But to form this relationship, she probably had to get over her sexual hang-ups. Did her newfound independence lead to a sexual reawakening?
Well, once Kathy broke away from her unsatisfying heterosexual relationship, she felt free to express herself in other ways. Luckily for her, there was a thriving lesbian community at the Alpine Manor. One of Kathy's co-workers at the time, a nurse's aide, described the nursing home as a cubby of lesbians. After 6 months of working at Alpine Manor, Kathy met an 18-year-old woman named Dawn who started giving her attention. It was at this point, at 25 years of age, that Kathy began to believe that she was gay. So she began her first same-sex relationship with Dawn. The lesbian culture which surrounded Alpine Manor became a positive outlet for Kathy. No longer was she as shut-in as she had been during her time with Ken. She began a very active social life, going to movies and bars and drinking and shooting pool with her newfound friends. For the first time in her life, Kathy had found a group of people who understood her. Furthermore, in Dawn, she had found a companion who could satisfy her emotional and sexual needs. It seemed like she was leveling off a little bit, don't you think?
She may have been, but then she met Gwen. While Kathy and Gwen were co-workers, Kathy didn't take much interest in her. They had a common relation in Dawn, who was Gwen's friend, but never talked to each other. However, 3 weeks into Kathy's relationship with Dawn, something about Gwen caught her fancy. Kathy was sitting in the common area, having a chat with Dawn, when Gwen entered the room. That day, Gwen was wearing her uniform with the sleeves rolled up. Even from across the room, Kathy caught sight of the scars running up each of Gwen's arms, the scars she'd inflicted upon herself during adolescence. Kathy recollects that this was the moment she started watching Gwen.
Oh, that sounds kind of creepy. Why would the scars of self-injury attract Kathy to Gwen?
Kathy was not mentally healthy, so we have to look at it from her perspective. A study conducted at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden may help us shed light on this kind of attraction. Psychologists there examined 700,000 men and women with psychiatric diagnoses and compared their marital resemblance with 3 million people without psychological diagnoses.
And what is marital resemblance?
Well, marital resemblance is when one person in a marriage is similar to their partner in one way or another. A non-psychiatric example of a characteristic which is positively correlated is height.
Positively what now?
Positively correlated. It means a relationship between two variables, where when one of the variables increases, so does the other. The variable in the height example would be whether a person is tall or short. Since there is a positive correlation for height, tall people tend to marry other tall people, and short people often end up with short people. Being the same height as your mate makes things less physically complicated, right? It's easier to kiss, to hold hands, you get the idea.
Okay, but what does that have to do with Gwen and Kathy? I mean, how tall were they?
That's not really what I'm getting at. This principle holds true for psychological disorders as well. Though people with psychiatric diagnoses are less likely to marry on the whole, they are 2 to 3 times more likely to marry someone else with a psychiatric.
That's all for today. Come back for the next live stream. Bye.